Hello there and welcome. This is Mikhail or Michael speaking, and as always before this video starts, I want to express my eternal gratitude towards those who decided to support me financially, be it through Patreon, PayPal or Super Thanks. I really appreciate your help, so thank you friends and have a great day. Today's video I will start with the Zaporozhian front, to be more specific, Orikhiv direction. First, let's discuss the situation within and around settlement of Rabotina. After all, it would seem Ukrainians have decided to double down on their decision to attack here in this sector, and in the last few days, as recent report suggests, they were able to take full control over Rabotina settlement and began their attempts at capturing Russian positions in front of this village. This forest line is where one of the Russian trench line was located, and as you can see by this territorial change, Ukrainians were able to capture at least one portion of it, with the rest, as report suggests, still in control of the Russians. Generally, this indicates that Ukrainians have started their assaults in the general direction of Novoprokopivka, but of course, in order to do so, they need to get rid of these Russian positions here, and only then they will be able to directly assault the village. Of course, first they must assault this small portion of the village, which as you can see clearly stand out. If they continue to assault across these open fields, they will be greatly exposed to the Russian counterattacks, which will only lead to more losses, without any result to show. For that exact reason, the Ukrainians are not only assaulting Russian positions in front of Novoprokopivka, but actually are attacking on the left side of this road in an attempt to spread their zone of control around the village of Rabotina. At this point in time, it would seem that these attacks are unsuccessful, and Russian positions on this portion of the front holds firm. However, the situation on the northeast of Novoprokopivka continue to develop. Here, Ukrainians are continuously spreading their zone of control in this general sector by assaulting Russian positions all across this front in the general attempt to attack Russian positions within Novoprokopivka village from the flank. But even still, Russians are not willing to give up initiative and are constantly counterattacking Ukrainians. They are counterattacking Ukrainians here to the west of Rabotina, which is one of the reasons why Ukrainians weren't successful here, as well as continue a hard fight for this small portion of a forest line where the trench line is located. And of course, Russians are counterattacking to the northeast of Novoprokopivka in attempt to hinder Ukrainian advances here. Then from here, let's discuss the direction of Verbove, where the first defensive Russian line, or so-called Surovikin line, is situated, and discuss the situation here. Like I said previously, not only Ukrainians were attacking to the flank of Novoprokopivka, but also in the general direction of Verbove as well. It would seem that after a few days of hard fighting, they were able to secure a small bridgehead to the other side of anti-tank, ditch and dragon teeth, and it doesn't seem like Russians were able to deal with this problem as of right now. Like I said in the previous video, this will allow Ukrainians to safely transfer their armored vehicles across those defensive lines, which will then allow them to attack Russian defensive lines directly. However, recent reports suggest that Ukrainians had significantly decreased activity of their armor and infantry fighting vehicle, mostly due to the extreme losses. For example, here on this video, you can see a Ukrainian tank firing upon the Russian positions within one of the tree lines, and after a few seconds, it gets immediately hit by Russian ATGM. And then there's another video that I have for you in which you can see Ukrainian column advancing on the open field and being shelled by the Russian artillery. And of course, we have the biggest news of the day here as well. There is now a video of first ever recorded destroyed Challenger 2 tank. If I'm not mistaken, it has never been lost in the fighting before, so it is a historical moment here. Then from here, let's quickly discuss the Lapkovo Pyatikhatki settlement. Generally speaking, Ukrainians are occasionally attempting at attacking in the direction of Serebryansky. from settlements of Pyatakhatki and Lapkova, but usually these attacks are met with Russian resistance and lead to nothing. However, in the recent few days, Ukrainians were successful at advancing here in the direction of Russian-controlled portion of settlement of Kamyansky, and as a result of that were able to advance here ever slightly. Then from here let's visit Vremivka tactical bridgehead and discuss the situation here. To this day, Ukrainians are still unable to push Russians away from the positions in front of Zavetna Bazhanya, so their assaults in the direction of this village are mostly unsuccessful. There is also Ukrainian attacks to the east of Urozhaine in attempt to close off this Russian-controlled salient, as well as to the west of Serebryansky in attempt to do the same here. At the time of recording, there is no reports that will allow us to suggest that Ukrainians were successful in those endeavors. Here on this video you can see Russians shelling settlement of Urozhaine with cluster munitions, and after that they yet again shelled the settlement, but this time with incendiary rounds. This is the reason why Ukrainians are unable to advance here on this front. Significantly, Russians here still have superiority in artillery and aviation, which greatly hinders and slows down Ukrainian advances on these fronts. There were reported Ukrainian attacks in the general direction of the village Priyutne. These attacks came from settlement of Livadne, as well as from Novodarivka settlement. Ukrainians continued their assaults in the direction of Russian positions to the west of Staromayorsky. Few days ago, they have made some territorial gains in this sector and are now trying to extend this success by attacking further on. And due to the recent reports from this sector, there is no reason to suggest that they were successful at that. Then let's quickly visit other flank of the Vremivka tactical bridgehead, and interestingly enough, there were reports raising activity of Ukrainian forces which attacked from the settlement of Zlataniva in the direction of Novodonetsky, as well as attacked from the settlement of Prechestivka in the direction of Novomayorsky. Then from here let's visit the settlement of Vuglidar. There haven't been any territorial changes for a long time, but this time the situation changed. As a result of constant back and forth and Ukrainian attacks, Ukrainian forces were able to attack and recover some positions right in front of the settlement of Pavlivka. At this point in time, their controlled territory ends at the very edge of what would seem to be old military base, and as you can see now it is only a small river that separates Russian-controlled Pavlivka and Ukrainians on the other side of the river. Then from here let's move to the settlement of Marinka and discuss the situation here. Now this map has not been updated yet, however this pro-Ukrainian map has decided to show a territorial change in favor of Russians. For example, this is the situation of yesterday and this is the situation of today. So generally speaking, according to a pro-Ukrainian source, Russians were able to advance about this much, which is quite significant if we take into account how slow the general capture of this village has been. From Marinka, let's move to the Bakhmut city and first discuss the situation to its southern flank. First comes settlement of Klishevka. Ukrainians continued to be very active here on this front. Without stop, they assaulted Russian positions within settlement of Klishevka and around it as well. And as a result of that, they were able to capture small portion of the center part of the village. Recent report suggests that Russians are still present within this small portion of the village as well as on the open fields in front of it. So a possibility for a counterattack is possible. Although Russian attempt at recapturing this portion of Klishevka were unsuccessful, Russians had more success to the north of Klishevka, where they were able to advance ever slightly within the forest area here. Ukrainian assaults in the direction of Andriivka, Zelenopilya and Kurdyumivka were unsuccessful. Same could be said about the northern flank of Bakhmut, where Ukrainians yet again unsuccessfully attacked in the direction of Berhivka, Yagodne and Dubova-Vasilivka. Then from here let's move to the Serebryansky forest, or to be more precise, Kremina-Liman direction. As a result of constant fighting here, Russians were able to advance within the forested area and establish new defensive positions on the newly captured territories. Here in this picture you can see exactly how much they were able to capture. generally speaking, both Russians and Ukrainians are still very active on this front. Russians continue their offensive operations within the Serebryansky forest and along this ledge in the general direction of settlements of Yampolivka, Zarychne, and Torske, while Ukrainians are counterattacking them in attempt to slow down their pace and gain some territories for themselves. All this action is supported by artillery duels and counter-battery activities. Then from here let's move to the Svatove front and discuss the situation here as well. Here Russians continued their offensive operation contesting the control over the settlements of Nadia with Ukrainian forces, which also attacked in its direction in attempt to capture it. Ukrainians also attacked all across this front in attempt to get rid of this recent Russian-acquired salient. Russians, on the other hand, attacked in the direction of Novogorivka and Tverdokhlebova in attempt to recapture it, as well as advanced here in between the settlements of Karmazinikivka and Kovalivka. Here on this picture you can see how much exactly. So this is it for today's video. I hope it was to your liking. If it was, please consider supporting it with a like, comment, and a subscription. These actions not only motivate me to work harder, but also help promote this video to a wider audience. Thank you in advance. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day, and always remember, Russia will be free and great.